And they've been warned about that, and there's something coming for them. But my point on this is this. These guys cheated. They switched teams. They're not Republicans. They said they're Republicans. That's cheating.
Right.
Right? You won by 73 votes. You admitted yourself it was probably because of them. Probably because of cheating.
It's possible. I wouldn't call it cheating. Those are your words. Go right ahead.
Well, I'm calling it cheating.
Well, I'm not. How's that?
Okay. Well, if you're...
We do.
Biden is
Hold on,
cheating.
folks. You're in charge. Once more, and I'm done. You're in charge, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to stand for this.
All right. Keep it civil. But let me pose a hypothetical. If you committed adultery, and I'm not saying you did, but if you committed adultery, I doubt your wife would say, well, it's not legal, it's
We
legal, so
celebrate
it's
our
okay.
50th next month.
Yeah, no, it would be, you would be a cheater, okay? You'd be on the wrong side, you'd be in the wrong team. And so, I'm gonna call it cheating, and I don't think anybody who watches that would say anything else. Now, I actually wish the Democrats could get their act together enough to have a reasonable candidate out there that we could actually have somebody to go up against. I wish that they could, but they don't, they can't, okay? That doesn't give them an excuse to come into our camp and try to tear our candidates down so that they get something that's more to their liking. I'm sorry. There's a primary and there is the general election, and they're free to put up anybody they want for the general election.
Well, and the fact of the matter is that in both elections, both in Bill Brooks and my own, they didn't put anybody up.
Now,
Didn't he?
you mentioned the zoning, right? And then and in the video you said that I was advocating for one zone. That Brent Regan wanted a single zone in the county, okay? And that's false. I defy you to find any place, in fact, the public record for this, the public record where I actually got up and testified at it, and it was in 2015 at the college when we had the 53-acre subdivision up in Athol. And I got up there and I said, on the record, that the zoning should stay the way it is. That people have an expectation of their future property use, which is dependent on zoning. And that was my big objection to the ULUC, because ULUC rezoned the entire freaking county. Okay? It was a horror show. I had 3 different zones on my one property. And so for you to say that I don't care because I'm insulated is a bunch of malarkey. Okay? I do care. That's why I volunteer my time.
Okay, so
I'm speaking.
Go right ahead.
All right? And I'm telling you flat out that that is a misstatement. And then to say to the people, the county commissioner speaking to the people and telling them that if Brent Regan gets one more commissioner, he's gonna take over the county and that's the end of it. That's preposterous. That is absurd. Find me one county commissioner, anywhere, anytime, or one elected official who I've gone to and said, you must do X, Y, and Z. Never happens. Why? Because I believe that you get the good guys elected and then you leave them alone.
Fair
You
enough.
leave them alone, okay? Leslie Duncan, I was no big fan of Commissioner Duncan, or I did not support her early on. She has won my support and my admiration through her hard work and dedication to the job. She does a fine job. And the treatment you give her, I find, is to be a personal insult.
Can I speak now? I mean, if you're not ready to let me speak, we can stop right here.
Actually, I have a question for you. That's all right?
Let me respond to your
Go
earlier
ahead.
statement. Now, you say that the statement was false, that you wanted a single zone. What if I produce 3 people who say that was exactly what you said? But we'll leave it at that for now.
I think that you are confused with the commissioner at the time who made that proposal. And it was used as a rhetorical tool to say that under the law, it's possible to do this. But I was never advocating for it as a practical matter. Now, you can talk to your 3 friends, and I'm sure they'll say whatever they want, because people say false things about me all the time. I can document that, okay? So I have it as a matter of public record, recorded, where I came up. And in fact, Dan Green used my argument in his closing statement to vote against the zone change.
And you might have made that argument, but you also made the other argument, but you and I are gonna disagree on that point. Fair enough. Okay.
You're telling me what my position is, you don't have the authority to tell anyone what Brent Regan's position
I'm
is.
not suggesting that I have the authority, I'm suggesting what I heard and what other people heard, and we'll leave it at that. Treatment of Leslie Duncan, when have you heard me abuse Leslie Duncan? She and I may have some strong philosophical differences, but I accord her the respect that she deserves as a coworker. And I think everybody in this room, and especially my staff, will tell you that.
And
That is wrong.
And I would hope, as chairman, that you would ensure that decorum was afforded her by your seatmates. That is also your responsibility, sir.
It is my responsibility, and when it gets out of hand, I cut it off. But the fact of the matter is, they are my co-equals.
Well, I suggest that you lower the threshold of out of hand.
Anything else? You have any
Yes.
questions?
One more. June 1st, actually two more questions. June 1st, downtown Coeur d'Alene, were you there?
June 1st.
June 1st, downtown Coeur d'Alene, all the people with guns, scary, scary
No,
guns.
no, I was not there.
You were not there? Okay. So when you're speculating about what was going on, that's speculation. I was actually there. I was there for 4 nights and I saw exactly what went on. And then finally, you talk about part-time commissioners. What is that? Because right now, there's no hours for commissioners. And I've been trying to get this answer, so I have you here and I'd like to answer.
Well, let me try to respond to your first point.
What?
Okay, so this is from Georgetown Law School. And talking about the gathering, the armed gathering that occurred here. And I'm not gonna go through all this, okay? Is it legal to act as a private militia in Idaho? And I'll read it very briefly. No. All 50 states prohibit private unauthorized militias and military units from engaging in activities reserved for the state militia, including law enforcement activities. Some, including Idaho, also prohibit paramilitary activity, during or in furtherance of a civil disorder. Idaho laws are described below. So my point is that, yes, maybe they felt they were doing good, maybe they truly believed that Antifa was coming, I never did believe that. But it does raise the question, was that a legal gathering? Under whose authority?
Excuse me. Quiet.
Only the governor can commission a militia, and the governor's in charge, that wasn't the case. That's my point. What was your next question?
Well, no, if you're gonna make the point about a militia being done, I'm sorry, what I saw was citizens legally carrying. And I was one of them.
Fair enough.
Now, and I would, just for your own edification, sir, I would say that exactly what you did just there is the very reason why people question your commitment to the Second Amendment. You twisted what happened into a militia and then said, well, militia is illegal. That's not what happened. You weren't even there.
I didn't have to be there. First of all, I didn't twist anything. Hold on to reason. People were claiming that Antifa was coming, there was never any proof of that. Where was the centralized structure? So the point is.
That's why it wasn't a militia.
Okay, and that action actually went beyond constitutional carry. There's constitutional carry, but I believe that action went beyond it. And you and I can disagree. Now, I just read you what it says, and maybe you disagree, that's perfectly fine, but that's my view.
I was there.
Okay?
I'm telling you, as chairman of this committee, that I actually talked to people that were with Antifa on Sherman Avenue that night. And we have pictures of a BLM guy fist bumping another city resident. The Antifa, the police had received a credible threat. They transmitted that to the businesses downtown. The businesses had some of the storefronts boarded up, okay? Boarded up. Everybody was fearful. Elaine Price, who's here, was one of the shopkeepers. They were fearful, and they thought that Antifa and BLM was going to come there. We had a strong show of citizens with their sidearms and rifles. It was beautiful. I went up to one of the Antifa guys and I told him, you don't want to be here. You don't want to do this. And you know what happened? They tuck-tailed and left.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, that was for me, one of the proudest moments of being a resident of Kootenai County, to see my fellow citizens standing up, and there were enough guns there and people with guns to get whatever they wanted. The police couldn't stop them, nobody could stop them. They could get whatever they wanted, and what they wanted was peace.
Yes.
Clearly, this is your crowd, no question, okay? But the fact of the matter is, if you had two people that happen to be Antifa, that doesn't mean they were storming Sherman Avenue. I mean, it's two different things. And by the way, where was Coeur d'Alene PD? I haven't heard Coeur d'Alene PD weigh in as to whether BLM or Antifa was a threat. So that's a whole other matter, go ahead.
And the final question was, we keep hearing this talk about we'll go from 3 full-time commissioners to 5 or 7 part-time commissioners. Now, Elmer Curry, I remember was at a town hall.
Rick Curry's dad.
Or, excuse me, Rick Curry.
Rick Curry? the
Rick Curry,
commissioner?
yeah, Rick Curry, the commissioner, sorry. Rick Curry was at an event for the candidates, and he was telling me that county commissioners only have to work 1 day a month. That is the only legal requirement that, 1 day a month. And then he goes on to say, and we only get 2 weeks paid vacation. And I joked, I said, only a government employee could say that they only have to work 12 days a year and they get 10 of them off. But my point is that full-time, part-time, that you're in a job and you get paid, right? It's a salaried position. So how are you gonna tell county commissioners, that there's 5 of them, that they're part-time when they're getting half pay, all right? Do they then decide how many hours to work? I haven't heard that argument in any of the government, or any of the panel discussions. So in your mind, because you're proposing it, in your mind, what does part-time mean?
Well, let me start off. First of all, I've been in office 4.5 years. I've taken less than 12 weeks vacation. And that's not because I'm working part-time. Secondly, with regard to your question, right now, we earn somewhere around $76,000 a year. In case you're wondering, Bonner's at 85, Ada's at about 110. In any case, when you go part-time, and I'm just gonna throw some figures out, that wage is gonna drop to probably $1,800 to $2,000 a month. So if you've got 5 commissioners, they're gonna be earning probably a fraction, a quarter to perhaps at most a third of what they're earning now. Go ahead. That's the answer to your question. But now you've got 5, so is the representation decreased or is it increased? My contention is that you've increased it if you want to talk representation, because you've had 3, now you've got 5. The fact that they're part-time is really not the issue here, because you've got a full-time manager. Go ahead.
Well, if you make that argument, if I have 3 full-time commissioners in a week, that's 120 hours. If I have 5 half-time managers in a week, that's 100 hours. So there's 20 fewer hours available. Plus there's overhead that every morning you gotta get coffee, you gotta read your email. So there might be an hour that's available to meet with constituents for a part-time guy, and there might be 2 hours for a full-time guy. So that whole argument that you're gonna be a better representative doesn't.
Except you have a manager that's running the day-to-day operation.
How much is that?
Ah, yes. The oligarch.
Yeah. Well, if he's an oligarch, would you call Bezos an oligarch? Would you call Musk an oligarch? Pretty much. Wow. And the fact of the matter is, we have CEOs and corporations, don't we?
But, and I made that argument in my testimony to the optional form of government, that dictatorships work well in business because the feedback that is needed to keep the system stable is the customer. They can buy the product or not. Bezos can't put a gun to somebody's head and say, you're gonna buy from Amazon. You can. The government can come along and say, we're gonna take your taxes, we're gonna take your damn house. And our protection from that is elected officials. I can then come to you and take that power away from you. So you saying that you're gonna reduce the number of elected officials to make it more efficient scares the Jesus out of me.
Yeah, because but you're increasing the number of commissioners, so now those electeds have gone from 3 to 5 or 7.
And then, so I have a problem with the hired clerk, okay? Like the last clerk we had,
If you have a problem with that today with the city has part-time council people.
I'm not in the city, I'm in the county.
Doesn't
If I,
matter.
we're not talking about the city, we're talking about the county. I have a problem with the clerk, our prior clerk had an embezzlement, okay? And Dan English had a clerk that was an embezzler. So when it came time for Dan English to get elected again, we could all say, what about that embezzler? Either you knew about it, or you didn't know about it, and you missed it, okay? So there's some accountability there. You don't actually have to unelect a guy, but he knows that he's gonna be up for election. So there's this cloud, this election of Damocles standing over his head, okay? But if we take that away, so now if in the proposed system, and I don't wanna argue the optional forms of government, but just, you brought it up, so I'm not. In the proposed system, we have a hired county clerk who has an embezzlement, okay? And then we got to the, a manager, the county manager, who's not elected. And then on that, we have 3 county or 5 county or 12 county commissioners, okay? Who do you talk to? Who do you hold accountable? Because I'll tell you what, if I go to the county, manager, and I ask that county manager, what about the clerk and that? Oh, that is actually an employment, human resources issue. We're not allowed to talk about that. Okay? And so that whole thing is masked. It comes down, and then which of the 5 county commissioners is responsible? You see the problem? There's no chain of command. There's no person directly responsible. Having the system distributed with elected officials at each node means that there's some accountability to the voters. Without that, virtually all accountability is lost. And I made that argument in the opposite forms of government. It's on the tape. You can listen to it.
And by the way, I made the same argument. And when I started my talk, I said, you think you have accountability? Then you don't. You don't know who's working, you don't know who's doing what. If you have the very situation that you just described, you have a clerk that's in the common. You've got 2 people above it. You've got a manager, and then above that, you've got the county commissioners. So you have potentially 2 areas of accountability. Today, if that clerk is doing something and you're unaware of it, where's your accountability? Who do you go to? The county commissioner? I have no authority over that individual.
Both those positions are hired. They're experts that we found somewhere out in the ether who lost a job and now came here to take this one and now tell us how to run our.
But I'm referring to the current situation. You have a county clerk today.
Yes.
I don't want to pick on the clerk, but since you brought that up as an example, if there is a problem with the county clerk today,
Yes.
what is your recourse?
At the next election, we'll take them out.
Fair enough, but let's say he's in office 6 months. You're gonna wait 3.5 years.
Yes.
If that individual is hired and there's a problem, that individual can be fired.
3.5 years is a lot shorter than never.
Why would he be hired? Get fired.
All right, I am not gonna open the floor to questions. I think we have, probably enough for this evening. You know what, Chris, you've got some stones for coming in here and talking to us, and I appreciate that, and, I admire that. Chris Felios and I were actually, in the early days of the Tea Party, we worked shoulder to shoulder. And, you know, he was there fighting it out, and we're going different ways now, unfortunately, but, we do appreciate you coming down and talking to us. Thank you very much.